Nah, get in. Okay, there we go.
Okay, we're starting.
Confirm once it's coming through.
Now it's moving. Ding, ding, ding.
Let me confirm
Okay.
once it's coming through here. Just a moment. All right. Looks like we're now live on YouTube.
Admitting all.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Thanks, Sam. And thanks everyone for your patience. Thanks, Kimo and Sean, for getting us online. For those of you who are joining us on Zoom, please know that we had some trouble with the link. We can post in the chat right again. Vanessa, would you post in the chat again the link to the YouTube streaming? And if you'd like to join us on YouTube so that you can use the chat, the link will be here for Vanessa, and she's also working on getting it up to date on the .NET site. But thank you everyone for joining us for the August 2022 meeting of the Board of Directors of the Oregon Country Fair. We are recording this meeting and we're streaming live over YouTube. If you would like to participate in member input opportunities tonight, Zoom is the right place for you. If you'd like to use a chat, the chat function is enabled in YouTube. So please join there if you'd like to use the chat. The chat in Zoom will be only for raising hands to create a stack for people to participate. Board members, staff, officers, please keep your video feed on. For everyone else, please turn your video off until it is your turn to speak. We'll start tonight with some announcements. If anyone has announcements they'd like to share, now's the time for that. But let's hold announcements that are about life transitions, births, deaths, etc. for the end, and then we can have a moment of silence if we need to. I have an announcement. The board met in closed session on Friday, July 21st and Sunday, July 31st to discuss personnel matters. No decisions were made at those meetings. And I don't see any more announcements. That brings us to the minutes approval. Is anyone prepared to make a motion to approve the minutes from the July board meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Sandra seconds, Sam moves, and Sandra seconds. Do we have any board discussion on the meeting minutes from the July board meeting? Thanks to everyone who was able to attend that meeting in person. We had tried to do a hybrid meeting, but with the technology we had out at Alice's, we were unable to get the digital participation portion up and running. So thanks to everyone who was there in person, and thanks especially to Kimo, who had to navigate a new type of beast to create the minutes from the recording. So there's no discussion on that. So let's approve this by unanimous consent. That means if a board member does not approve the minutes from the July 2020 meeting, I'd like to hear a no from you now.
I'd like to abstain, Lily. This is Spirit.
Spirit is abstaining, okay. And thank you to Spirit for attending that meeting over the phone. I know things were very complicated at that meeting. So Spirit abstains. I hear no other no votes, which means that the minutes are approved by unanimous consent with Spirit abstaining. And that brings us to an agenda review. On the agenda, I have a bylaws motion from Lisa, hybrid meetings from John, a reparations motion from John, data management policy from myself, committee minutes and recordings from AJ, and the appointment of George Braddock to the Fixed Assets Committee from Sandra. Would anyone like to table or remove those motions? John?
Yeah, I'd first like to thank everybody who sent me constructive comments and feedback concerning the draft motion. Based on that, I'm going to withdraw the motion tonight. I'm going to rework it and reintroduce it. It'll be taking a different tack than this particular motion take. So if it's okay with my second, I'd like to go ahead and withdraw that from the agenda.
Thank you. I'd like to table the data management policy. Stephen Dyerkoff, our new membership secretary, has been working on that one. And I think he just needs a little bit more time. So we'll table that one till September. And if it's ready by September, we will make sure we get the wording of the motion up on the .NET site with enough notice. So then is it okay with everyone if we just take the remaining motions in order? Lisa's bylaws motion, John's hybrid meetings, AJ's committee minutes, and the appointment of George Raddick to the Fixed Assets Committee?
I think you need to formally ask Sue if she's willing to withdraw the agenda items, the motion, because she seconded the.
No, the motion hasn't been seconded because it hasn't been brought yet.
The motion, there was a motion that was seconded last April. And that was put on, that's when
Oh, because we did discuss that one.
yes,
Okay, great. And yes, and I see thumbs up from Sue. You're right. Thank you, John. For a normal meeting, a normal motion that we hadn't yet discussed, you're correct. I mean, I'm correct, but you're correct about this one. Perfect, thank you.
just a formality, but yeah.
Yep, that's okay. Do we have any motions for new business tonight? We can take those now. AJ,
Yeah, so I have a motion for new business that I would like to move to old business tonight.
Okay.
And that motion reads as following. In collaboration with the executive director and board president, the board moves to donate $5,000 from the community outreach line item to sponsor the Black Cultural Festival in Eugene at Alton Baker Park on August 20th.
okay, let's take further new business, and then I heard you say you want to go new to old, so we'll discuss that. Sandra, do you have new business?
I
For
do.
September? Go ahead.
I do. I have two. One is a motion that the Personnel Policies Committee will work with the ED to update the personal time off PTO policy in the employee manual to be in compliance with new Oregon law. So we'll work on that, bring the new language forward and take it up next month. And then the second one, move to establish an ad hoc work group of board treasurers, budget committee liaisons to recommend a standardized policy for trade pass allocation to former GMs and staff.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll send those to you, Kimo.
John?
I'd like to put on the agenda a Picun sponsorship.
Okay. And then AJ, you said you wanted to bring your motion from new to old. So then the proper technique for that is that we'll open it up. First, I'd like to hear your reasoning for why you think it needs to move new to old. Then we'll have member input and board discussion only on the act of moving it new to old, not on the content of the motion itself.
Okay, so I would like to move this motion new to old because it's timely. The event is on August 20th and we wouldn't have other time to approve this. And so that is why I'm moving it from new to old.
Okay. And I will second that motion to move from new to old. Do we have any membership discussion on that? No member discussion? Okay, board discussion? Sam?
Yeah, and I think this is a good idea. Please tell me moving this, obviously the timeliness of it is important. And please call me out of order if this is too substantive, this question, because I'm not really sure. I'm not sure, I don't know who, I guess I just don't know. I'm asking the line item that this is coming out of. Is it a board line item, or is it a general manager or an executive director line item? Is a board action necessary? Because if a board action isn't necessary to do this at all, then I guess I don't see the need to move it new to old. But if we do need to take action, then we should do that. You see what I mean?
Right. AJ and I discussed that. I think that it is necessary because we're asking the executive director to spend money from the general management budget.
Got it. We would be directing money out of the general management budget, which is usually the executive director's purview.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question, and I'm comfortable with moving it.
Okay. Any more board discussion about moving from new to old? Okay, seeing none. Let's vote on this one. George,
Sorry, yes.
John,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
I vote yes, Sam,
Yes.
and Spirit.
Yes.
The motion to move that new to old passes unanimously. And I have one more piece of new business. I realize I didn't do that in the right order. I would like to nominate Michael Schultze to the Elections Committee. So that will be the new business for September. That brings us,
Lily,
yes,
Lily, I need to correct you. It's
Uh-huh.
Schultz.
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 Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Michael Schultz. Okay. That brings us to the membership input portion of the evening. So for member input, we'll continue to use chat for raising hands only. Please turn your mics off and use your mics only, or open your mics only when you've been called on. Raise your hands in the chat. And you're welcome to turn your videos on when you've been called on as well. Posting a comment in the chat is out of order. I'm going to be working on a dynamic stack for tonight. We have been doing about 2 minutes of member input for the totality of the meeting for each member. Sam will be keeping time. Please help us to stick to that time so that we can keep our productive and efficient timeline for the meeting tonight so we can get our business done. And let's see, a few other reminders. Now for member input, the time for this member input right now is about topics not on tonight's agenda. If you have comments on tonight's agenda items, hold your comments for when that agenda item is on the table. And it's worth saying again, I've said it at the last few meetings, that personnel matters are confidential and will remain the business of the employee and the employer. There will be no discussion of job performance for current or former employees or their evaluation in a public meeting. The most appropriate way for the membership to reach the board and share your thoughts are in writing. In order to protect the legal and fiduciary responsibilities this board has to the organization and to our employees, and to keep any private confidential employment matters out of the public record, I will end any conversation that veers into job performance or evaluation. We'll be maintaining confidentiality throughout this meeting. Member input is not a place for personal attacks. Attacks on current or former employees is not appropriate. With that said, I see quite a few hands here. I see Jane first.
Hi, in this year's guidelines, it says that on August 13th, we're gonna have a fair evaluation meeting at the fair site. And I wonder how the planning for that is going, or if we were just hoping for something that's not gonna happen, because it's not in the .NET site and I haven't heard anything about it. That's my input.
Grumpy?
You can call me out of order, but I had a question about AJ's motion, and the question was just real quick, so hopefully it can be answered when we get to it. How much is in the line item that he's talking about?
We'll come to that when we get to that agenda item. Kimmel?
I have two things I'm going to read something that a member sent to us that they asked to be read. And I also have my own input on something, so I'll do mine real quickly first. When you refer to hybrid meetings, Lily, I'm thinking of in-person and online. And I think we're very capable of doing this well. But like as we had tonight, we have issues when we're all trying to log in all at the same time. It kind of slows things down. The difficult part about the Junely meeting in doing it in a hybrid format is that it was outdoors. So the trouble was with the chainsaws and the children and the masks. And so that's why it just made it more difficult for the recording secretary to, because I'm no transcriber. I need the recording to work. And so I think we can do both. And I would like to see us in the future reconsider having an outdoor meeting for that reason. Okay, Sam, now I'm going to go on to this other member input, which is from April Hall. My name is April Hall. I am booth rep for Patty's Pies. I'm very disappointed that my booth was not able to participate in the 2022 Oregon Country Fair due to the unfair like vaccination policy. I had every intention of attending during the public hours as a ticket holder, but illness, not COVID, prevented me from doing so. I would really like to get my feet on the grounds this year, as it has been my home for 35 of my 40 years on this planet. I was able to visit the grounds in both 2022 and 2021, but have not been on site since the vaccination policy went into effect on January 1st, 2022. I'd really like to be able to attend the teddy bear picnic and see some family. I'd also like to know sooner rather than later what the 2023 fair vaccination policy will be, as several booth members had adverse reactions to COVID shots and are not willing to get a second dose or a booster. Other practice natural and holistic medicine and haven't received a COVID vaccination at all. Please rescind the 2022 vaccination policy now that the major event is over and we now know that the vaccine does not do anything. Am I done?
You still have 45
Oh.
seconds if you want.
Okay. Please rescind the 2022 vaccination policy now that the major event is over, as we now know the vaccine does not do anything to prevent the spread of COVID, but simply might provide some kind of benefit to the recipient only.
Thanks for reading that, Kimo, for the member who wasn't here tonight. Ed Moy, you're up next.
My screen won't come up.
We can hear you though.
Okay. I must admit that I am worried about rumors. I have watched as the Diversity Committee gave an official presentation to the Board of Directors in which a Black board member was called a token by the white Diversity Committee representative. That same rep then went on to threaten to shut the fair down and listed all the tactics they would use to do so. The goal being to force the firing of the serving executive director and rehiring of some previously dismissed management units. A month later, I watched as a board passed a resolution to investigate the Diversity Committee and report on what they find. Months go by and still there's no report. There doesn't seem to be any investigation, but rumors begin to spread. Rumor has it that some board members have assured the Diversity Committee there isn't going to be any investigation. Then there are rumors that the Diversity Committee wants to censor written and verbal speech and then have a star chamber with absolute power to banish people from the fair. How far can these rumors go? I know the board is very concerned about ending bullying at the fair. What?
They just called your name. You're up.
I'm talking. What the fuck?
Wait, no, Ed, come back. There's a lag with YouTube. If someone else is watching on YouTube, it has a maybe 30-second delay. So go ahead and continue. You've got 30 seconds left.
Great. How far can these rumors go? I know the board is very concerned about ending bullying at the fair. I implore them to release the video recordings of recent Diversity Committee meetings and put to rest these pernicious rumors that hang over the group. Those videos should exonerate the Diversity Committee from these creeping rumors. Truth is the only real answer to rumor and innuendo. Please release the tapes. We need transparency, not locked doors.
That's 2 minutes. Thank you. John Pincus.
Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yeah. Due to due to range problems, I probably won't be able to attend the whole meeting. I'm in a location where it's difficult. But I would just like to encourage, as I have other times, all motions to be printed in the Fair Family News, or at least on the website, where people don't have to hunt for them, where they're front and center. And especially bylaw revisions. Bylaw revisions should be not just posted, but advertised. They should be put on the proposal, should be put right up front where people are going to see it, even if that's not what they're looking for. That's the rules of the road for everybody. And it's important enough to make sure everybody knows the exact wording of the proposal. Thanks.
Thank you. Martha?
Hi, sorry, the light's behind me, but you can hear my voice. I was surprised there wasn't a whole line of people who wanted to say what a terrific fair that was. What a terrific fair that was. Everybody I talked to who was there just loved it. The vendors had record-breaking sales. The weather was wonderful, better than we could have asked for. It was terrific. That's it. Thank you. Had to get that in the record.
Sam?
All right, I'm multitasking and I'll be very quick because I don't think board members should usually use this time, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Just to remind everyone from my own perspective that it's helpful to have a reminder that in member input, we don't have any controls over what people say or whether or not it is true. And that things are stated sometimes in member input that are not factual. And that member input at an Oregon Country Fair board meeting is not a good place to get information about COVID-19, how it spreads, the effectiveness of vaccines, or any other scientific or medical information. Please don't take medical advice from member input at the Oregon Country Fair board meetings. Thank you.
Sue?
I know we had an awful lot of challenges this year, everything from short crews to mud to everything else. I was in awe of all the volunteers this year. The crews stepped up. They did marvelous work. Recycling and sanitation in my neighborhood were especially wonderful. But to everyone who wore that staff wristband, thank you.
LT?
Hi, I will be rather brief. Two things. I wanted to echo what Martha said and expand just briefly. The first time I saw the Dalai Lama over at Memorial Coliseum, at the end of his talk, he said something to the effect of, try to keep this good feeling going throughout the rest of your life, or at least for one more day. So I would invite us all to see how far we can carry that good feeling from the fair. And in respect to the extensive discussion about rumors, I just wanted to paraphrase Groucho Marx and say that love flies out the door when rumors come innuendo.
Spirit?
Yeah, I am going to echo what Martha said. What a wonderful fair. Often we always say best fair ever, not often, but every year I use that. And this year, I think that we set a new standard and of what best fair ever means. And I have not heard as many people as I've heard this year say that. I also want to, it's one of those things where I could say whatever Sue said, I ditto that, but I'm going to go ahead and reaffirm that all of the crews from especially pre-fair that worked so hard to get us going, we could not have done it without pre-fair stepping up. And then, handing the baton on, You know, the crews did the best that they could with what we had. And I'm just so proud of all of us, the entertainers, the booth people, including Sana Ritz. And then can we please also not forget Decon and post-fair crews, including QM that continued. Thank everybody so much. And I hope that next year we're moving on to a more inclusive so all the family can be together and we can put this behind us. But thank you all so much. I had an amazing fair and I hope the same for everybody.
I missed how much time that one was, Sam. How much time did Spirit have?
I heard down as 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Thank you. Norma? Norma? Did you still want to share?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just realized I was muted. I just want to echo what everybody else said and being repetitive, but it was one of the most challenging years that I can remember, and people really stepped up to the plate. And thank you so much, everyone. And now I'm done.
And Paxton. Thanks, Norma.
This fair really brought back a lot of memories of me of 1997, when we all of a sudden had 10,000 less people on the pass, and we loved it. This was a very similar situation. I really appreciate the density that we achieved, and I during the fair I did a time lapse of the path out in front of Community Village, and it really shows a difference in the traffic pattern. I hope to be able to show that one soon. So maybe at the picnic. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was a very good fair by me.
Thanks, everyone. So that's the end of member input. And that brings us to our executive director's report. Kirsten, take it away.
Thank you, Lily, and thanks to everybody for joining tonight. We'll start off with, we received another grant in the amount of $224,850. This is the state of Oregon's version of the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. We have received the monies. It is for operational expenses. There's no audit required, but they can review our expenses to make sure we use it appropriately. I want to give a shout out to John Pincus for drawing my attention to a meeting where I learned of this grant. So I really encourage the membership and the board members, when you hear of information that you think I should know, please don't hesitate to share that, because it usually can bear fruit. And this is a prime example of fruit that was bared by some information that was shared with me. On to the 2022 event. As we all know, we sold 30,000 tickets. Saturday sold out first, then Friday, then Sunday. By holding the limit on Saturday, it drove ticket sales for Friday and Sunday. Lots of feedback that art and craft and food vendors did very well. Very pleased to hear that. Operational feedback from coordinators about their successes and challenges has been requested. This is not designed to replace a general feedback, because we are encouraging them to complete that feedback form as well. This is designed to identify coordinators' specific needs so that we can support those. Weather, as you know, was a challenge in June. We ended up spending $13,000 to silage the fields. This is the first time we've ever had to do that. That was done in an effort to dry out the field so that we would be ready for the event. We built a new reefer dock because of the wetness in Miss Piggy's. We purchased more hay than usual because we didn't have hay from our own fields. The pre-fair went well, even with the rainy weather. We managed to accomplish a lot. The 2023 event dates have been controversial. I was given information that we bump it on when 4th of July falls on Tuesday, but in fact, we bump the dates when they fall on Wednesday. But I do want the board to consider the chance that climate change is real and that we may face these sorts of challenges in future years. It would take a board motion to change the dates from July 8th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, but there has been some desire to move it to the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Either way, we should consider moving the dates if We think that this is something that's going to be the new norm. I think it's worth just at least the board knowing what the impact of the weather was to this event, so that if we do it on the 7th, 8th, and 9th next year, and we find ourselves in a similar situation, it won't be a surprise. 2 weeks before the event, I was being encouraged to cancel the event due to the weather. I held tight. It was a very tight squeeze, but we had faith and we pulled it off. And that's kudos to all of the people that stuck with it and worked hard to make it happen. We still had to rent plates in certain areas to be able to drive through our fields. If this becomes the new norm, we may want to consider changing our dates. One day can make a difference. If we would have done it on the 7th, 8th, or 9th, we probably would not have been able to park in our fields. The temporary campground permits were approved this year. It was a new bar that they set for us. All campgrounds had to rise to this new level of inspection, but we passed. So kudos to Sierra for her hard work on getting that done. It was a nail biter for sure. We were required to apply for an outdoor assembly permit for the Far Side this year. This has never happened before. We never finalized the permit because they only told us about it 3 weeks before the event. This permit is usually required to be applied for 60 days in the advance of the event. They did ask about the Far Side and our connection between Far Side and the main property. So we will have to discuss that and how we will manage that connection over the river. Equipment rental shortages and supply chain issues were abundant. And I want to do a big thank you to all the volunteers that made it happen. We had extraordinary challenges this year, and everyone that participated rose to the challenge and made it a success. So big props to everybody. On the staffing side, I have hired Norma Sext as our office manager. We are so happy to have her and her knowledge and talent and rejoining the team. So I'd like to just throw it to Norma real quick, and she can just say hello and tell us a little bit about how excited she is to be back on the team.
I am excited to be back on the team. It's a great team, and the one of the big reasons we had such a successful fair is because we had a team of really hardworking, dedicated staff, and I'm really happy to be joining them again. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to climb out of retirement and shake off the dust and come back to the fair that I love so much. So thank you. Thank you,
Norma. We're so excited to have you bring your decades worth of knowledge and experience to the team. On the administration side, we will begin our 2021 tax filing starting today, August 1st. We are moving QuickBooks onto the network for multi-user mode and for regular backups. We'll be working on reconciling QuickBooks back to January 2022 to provide the board with up-to-date financials. Upcoming projects for this year, we're looking at a website redesign for the .net, the .org, and the KOCF websites. We're working on a member database. We'll be working on a volunteer manual. We'll be installing the Durables dishwasher, and we'll continue to work on improving Doug's Green by painting and doing flooring in Doug's Green. Upcoming events on the site, all events still require vaccine verification and wristbands will be issued. 2022 Fair Evaluation meeting is Saturday, August 21st at 11 a.m. It was put in the guidelines as August 13th, but in consultation with the feedback crew, it has been determined that we move it to the day of the picnic. So at 11 a.m. on Sunday, August 21st, we will have a feedback meeting on site. At 2 p.m., the teddy bear picnic will kick off, and it will run from 2 p.m. until dusk. We do have a band. We are asking you to bring your own picnic this year. Due to COVID concerns, we are not feeling comfortable cooking. So, bring your blanket and your chairs and your own picnic. There will be music, and I understand there will be a water gun fight. So bring your water guns. We will also have the Oregon Country Fair Cross Country Invitational Friday and Saturday, October 14th and 15th. This is the Elmira High School Cross Country Team annual event. We have not hosted this for going on 3 years now. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Kirsten, and thanks, Norma, for saying hello. I do see some questions here, Grumpy Spirit and then Sam.
I'll get it figured out. Sorry. My question is, on the report, is this the second $200,000 grant that we've gotten? If so, great. Either was the first or the second.
This is the only $224,000 grant. We received 1.969 from the federal government, and we received 224,000 from the state of Oregon.
Thank you.
Spirit?
Yeah, and maybe just to clarify, Grumpy, on that, and you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, Kirsten, but I believe that there were two parts to the shuttered venue is maybe what Grumpy's thinking of is that second part. But what I wanted, and so clarify after I'm done, but what I wanted to say is that I don't think that I thank the staff and bums separately for a great fair. You all were instrumental as well. So thank you. And then Lily, I would like to put up a motion to change the dates of the 2023 fair from July 7th, 8th, and 9th to the 14th, 15th, and 16th. I'm not necessarily comfortable changing it new to old. I'll be open to hearing that, but where should I add that? And I don't know where I'll vote, but I would like to get it up there so we can see where the board stands.
That can be new business for next month, and I'll ask for new business again at the end of the meeting.
Okay. And if there's time and somebody wants to move it new to old, I'd be open.
Sam?
I had two things. Spirit got out ahead of one of them. I was going to make a suggestion to do something similar about putting a motion to change the dates. I also have a question about the cost of the silage project, and it's really just where, mostly what I'd like to know is where that came out of in the budget, and did it push things over? Like, I assume you'd be asking for a budget adjustment if we needed one, but how did that play in?
Yeah, so there may be budget adjustment requests coming in September. Once we're finished crunching all the numbers and seeing where it landed, we do have a haying line where we buy hay, and it exceeded that budget. But we have miscellaneous and contingency line items that we can move the overages to. It's when we hit those budget caps that then we need to ask for budget adjustments. As of right now, there will probably be a couple budget adjustments coming down the pike in September, October at the latest, but I can't be specific right now as to what those will be and where they land, because I think we may be able to massage them into other areas that have monies available.
And as far as the actual cost of the silage, is it like, in terms of orders of magnitude, how does it compare to the haying that we had done?
Haying is usually done for the cost of the hay, right? So
Right.
we trade hay. We normally then buy hay in addition. So this year we had to silage and buy the hay that we would above and beyond what we would normally buy. We had no hay left over because we silaged. So we would get some hay, and then we would buy more hay. We had to buy all the hay this year because there was no hay from our fields.
Gotcha. Thank you.
John?
I've got a couple of questions relative to the teddy bear picnic. So it's not a potluck, so people will not be sharing the food that they bring. Is that correct? So the fair
They
will
can
not,
share, yeah, they can share the food that they bring within their pod, but we will not be putting out serving tables and allowing sharing of food in that normal traditional way.
will the fair be providing drinks, water and sodas like they have in the past?
Excellent question. Yes, we will be providing drinks. We'll be providing cookies and fruits. And so we'll provide a light snack that is easily served, not, independently served. You can grab and go. But we will be providing some snacks.
And are there COVID protocols, and what are the COVID protocols in place for the picnic?
Yes, we will have greeter employed, and they will be checking vaccine verifications at greeter and be putting COVID pre-screened wristbands on again. So we have plenty left over from the event. So it is a wristbanded event. You must prove your vaccination status upon entry. And you will be wristbanded.
And then I have another question on this different part of your thing. So we are no longer having an outside bookkeeper come in to reconcile the books.
I will be teaching Alex, our office assistant, how to reconcile. So there will be separation of duties and there will be cross training. So when I say I'm reconciling, what that really means is I'm going to teach Alex how to reconcile. Alex has no authority or any involvement in QuickBooks whatsoever, so he's a neutral third party to reconcile our books. But I will be teaching him, and it will be his responsibility on a monthly basis to reconcile our books.
So my question was, we are no longer having, is it correct that we are no longer having an outside bookkeeper come in to reconcile our books?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, with no further questions, that brings us to the treasurer's report. Hillary and Linda. Hillary, you want to go first?
Yeah. I also had a really great fair, and part of what was really great about it is that it was such a challenge, and being among a lot of people who are working hard under challenging conditions and enjoying each other and enjoying being on the site was just such a satisfying pleasure. And I'd like to really give a shout out to the food booths. The lines were incredibly long, and I know all the booth reps worked incredibly hard, but in particular, I want to say a huge thanks to all the people who aren't booth reps who showed up to work in those booths and who may have put in more hours than they expected to and were there to serve us. And I just really appreciate, you know, many of those people put in just as many hours as the volunteers did in service of other people. And I really want to make sure they get remembered and thanked too. Norma's been working really hard. You can imagine what it takes to write and record over $1 million of checks in small amounts to pay the expenses. The expenses are still coming in. Not all the receipts have still come in. Tickets West holds on to a part of our tickets, our ticket proceeds until they've reconciled. I'm not positive if all the deposits have been recorded. I know that I haven't been able to see printouts from registration or inventory about the actual numbers that we had out. But as a preliminary analysis from what I have been able to see, well, we know our ticket sales were about 2/3 of what we initially projected on. So we were projecting on 15,000 a day, but we sold 10,000 a day. So our admissions income right there was down 1/3. As far as I can tell at this point, it looks to me like our past sales, which is the money that comes from selling vehicle stickers and SOs to crew people, that seems fairly in line with what we predicted. But the registration, which is the money that comes from buying passes for booth people and from booth registration, that seems low. So I'm thinking that could be low by somewhere between 20 and 30%. And so that is something we did not put into our projections, that serious of a drop. So we'll see how that plays out. At this point, the main measuring stick that we have for the expenses is the budget and past history on how much of our budget that we've spent. And we can't make money on selling 10,000 tickets a day if we have expenses based on the budget that we went into this year with. So the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant is what made this year possible, and without us being in a disastrous financial situation. And that's exactly what that grant was for. And just big kudos for Kirsten for getting that, because it took the pressure off. It made it possible to do a large number of capital projects that will help repair and ready us for the future years. I think going forward, looking at capacity and looking at ways to right size our event and to be able to make an event that's as pleasurable and spacious as this year, and balance that out with the types of expenses that we have and our other needs, that's a huge issue. And I think what that's going to take is looking at how we plan and how we manage. I just think the days are gone when we can say we're going to build a budget from the grassroots up, and that all these different siloed groups get to hand their dreams and for expansion to the budget committee, and then the budget committee pulls it all together and says, wow, we're going to need a whole lot of money. I really think we have to say, what's our goal here in terms of the size that we're going to be, in terms of the amount of spending that will help us meet that goal, in terms of phasing in the longer term projects that we have. I don't think we can face having 5, 10, 15 large capital projects, large, I mean $100,000 and more, all facing us at the same time. I think we're going to have to phase them in. So I think from a financial point of view, we're going to have a lot of discussions about how we need to approach our budgeting process and our planning process differently in order to get a handle on this and meet the goals of being able to manage our growth and manage our capacity and create the kind of event that's pleasurable for all of us. So that's the, we expect to hear a lot more of that. And John, to your point too about the bookkeeping, we are talking a lot about internal controls. And one of the reasons that we've had an outside bookkeeper for years is that our bookkeepers have always been check signers, and we are not going to do that anymore. So it's against internal controls to have custody of the asset, which is the check signing, and responsibility for recording the assets, and responsibility for reconciling all in the same. So by having an outside bookkeeper, we were making up for not having separation of duties and not having a large enough staff to be able to accomplish those things in-house. We will continue to have outside accountants. We will continue to have separation of duties. And I think part of what we're going to be able to do is we're going to have a better chance at cross-training. And I'm hoping, in the past, if the bookkeeper went on vacation, nobody did that function. With cross-training, we'll be able to have a bookkeeper go on vacation and somebody else fill in that function, which is also a good enhancement to our internal controls, that we have backup, that we have overlap, that we have other people all in the system and checking each other's work. So I don't think we're going backwards in terms of internal controls. I think we're going forward and having stronger ones. So thanks everybody for just a really great fair and amazing circumstances.
Linda, do you also have a report tonight? Okay. This brings us to committees and work group reports. Any committees and work groups that have reports, please let us know now. If you have something that's not necessary to be shared in person at the meeting tonight, you can submit minutes or reports to Kimmo to be included in the Fair Family News. Sue?
Okay, 2 reports. First one is food. Food committee was meeting almost every day up until fair started, and we want to thank Booth Reg so much for their support. We want to thank all the food booths who were able to be at fair. They took huge risks, navigated so many challenges, worked hard, and fed us well. So everybody who was involved in the food booths, you did fabulous. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as liaison to craft committee, since craft committee won't meet until I think 2 weeks from now, I want to thank all the crafters who presented their creative works of their imagination, their hearts, and their hands. They showed up, they did their professional best, despite all the challenges involved. Hats off to all the crafters. Thank you.
Thanks. Stephen?
So I have an elections committee report. Now that the fair is over, it's time for us to focus on our upcoming board elections. We have 2 vacancies currently. Both of those vacancies terms expired in November. And we have 4 other directors whose terms expire in November. So we will be electing 6 directors in this October's annual meeting. There's a few important dates I should bring up. August 21st at 8 p.m. is the deadline for submitting candidate information. If you want to run to be a director, you should submit your candidate information by that date, or it will not be in the Fair Family News and your name will not be on the ballot. You can still run from the floor, but if you do not have your information in by the 21st, you will not be on the ballot. September 22nd is the deadline for registering to vote. If you are a FAIR member, but you are not a registered voter, you have until September 22nd to register. There will be a candidate forum sometime in late September, early October. I don't know the exact date yet. That is sponsored by the Get Out the Vote folks. We will have the date announced for that fairly soon. 15 October is the date of the annual meeting. We don't know yet whether it's going to be a hybrid meeting or a virtual meeting. If it is a hybrid meeting, you'll have an opportunity to vote at that meeting, but all members will be getting ballots mailed to them prior to then. So you can either submit your ballot in the mail or you can come and vote at the annual meeting. Ballots will be due on October 22nd at 8 p.m. You must have them returned to the office by then or they will not be counted. And on Sunday, October 23rd, we will count the ballots and announce the winners of the election. Now we're in a transition period moving to staggered 3-year terms. This year, the top 4 vote getters will have 3-year terms and the next 2 will get 1-year terms. Then starting next year, everybody will be elected to a 3-year term. 4 directors per year elected for 3-year terms. We were not requested to add any particular questions to the candidate information statements this year. What I did do though was add some suggested topics to the candidate information document. These are not required, but these are topics that people might want to address in their candidate statements. And that's it for my report.
Thank you. Sam?
Hey there, just a note that the diversity committee did have its meeting. We discussed, but didn't make any decisions on facilitated dialogue between the committee and the board, as well as the census project. It was a well-attended meeting, and the next meeting is on August 22nd at 6 p.m. Information on the .NET site.
Any more board, committee or work group reports tonight? Okay, that brings us to the old business segment of the meeting. We'll just go in order. First, we have a bylaws motion from Lisa. Lisa, do you have a motion for us?
I do. So the motion is to direct the bylaws committee to add clarifying language to Article 5, Section 2A, as recommended by the membership secretary. So the background on this is that Article 5, Section 2 states, any individual who subscribes to the purposes and basic policies of the fair abides by the terms and conditions of these bylaws, the articles of incorporation and any amendments thereto, and acts in accordance with the decisions made by the board of directors, is eligible for membership if the individual is registered with the fair and one has either received a wristband, other fair camping pass, or verifiable worker day pass in one of the 3 previous years, or 2 is a verified elder. To remain a member, an individual must vote in at least 1 annual membership vote every 3 years. So the intent in this bylaw was to require people to both participate at the fair at least once every 3 years and vote at least once every 3 years. But that final sentence doesn't make that clear. So the proposed change would be to the final sentence, and a suggestion is to remain a member, an individual must continue to meet the eligibility requirements stated above and vote in at least 1 annual membership vote every 3 years. Now that's just a suggestion. It could be worded differently. The impact of this motion that we're going to vote on tonight is that approval of this motion would send this matter to the bylaws committee to go ahead and draft the proposed amendment on behalf of the membership secretary. Approval of this motion tonight is not approval of the proposed amendment. The board of directors would still need to approve the proposed amendment by a board vote. Do I have a second?
Yeah, do we have a second for tonight's motion?
Sure, I'll second.
Sam? Okay, this brings us to member input. Okay, board discussion. John?
Unmute. So currently, once someone becomes a member, the way that the bylaws could be read is that they always remain a member, as long as they vote once every 3 years.
Correct.
And if this change is made, is this something that we're going to be able to enforce and monitor?
Yes, eventually. That's part of the, that was part of the membership secretary bringing up the matter, is that he's anticipating that in the future, as our database is improved and becomes more robust, that it will be something that the membership secretary will be able to enforce.
Okay, thank you.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm going to vote in support of this motion. I hope that the bylaws committee has the language of the motion is such that the bylaws committee can hammer out some exemptions and exceptions, because I can think of situations where somebody has a serious illness or something along those lines, can't participate in the fair for several years because they're in the military and they're stationed overseas, but they remain connected, they remain part of Fair Family, they still, they come to these Zoom meetings and they vote. And so my hope is that the bylaws committee can think about this language in such a way that we manage the intent of this to get a policy that generally requires people to participate, but that allows for some exemptions with need based situations. And that we would also have exemptions in the in the event that we have future years like this COVID year, where people have to take a year off, that we would have it in the plan that is something that the board could declare a extraordinary circumstance, and give people a year off if they need to take a year off with no penalty. I also am concerned, and this is just this is implementation rather than bylaw, but I am concerned about our ability to actually track who is participating. And so I want to make sure that if we are passing a bylaw that says that we have to be tracking that we're on track to be able to actually be tracking that. So before this comes back to the board for a vote on an actual bylaw amendment, I'll have those questions. But I'm totally great with sending it to the bylaws committee to do some of that work and to do some of that pounding out of the details.
Thank you. I think those are all reasonable requests.
Kira?
Yeah, Lisa, and I apologize because my brain didn't track what I read versus what I just heard. So I think that Sam just clarified. So tonight we are just directing. We are not voting on, because it feels premature for all the reasons that Sam just stated.
Correct. Yes,
Okay,
we're just sending it to the committee.
Okay, great. Thank you.
AJ?
Yes, I also want to follow up with that and make sure that once whatever motion is formed in the committee, that it'll go through the same process as all other bylaw changes, and that is that it's posted and it gives membership a time to view it and access it before it comes back here. So my question is this is not expected to come back to the board next month for a vote? Is it? Or are you intending that to happen?
Well, I'm intending to put this on the agenda for the next bylaws committee meeting, which will be this month. And then we'll just have to see how that goes, because the committee is also, in the middle of our update and revision of the bylaws. So we'll just have to figure out how it fits on our agenda as a group and work through that. I could imagine if we work through it that we could bring it as an item of new business, possibly next month. But that would be a new business, so it would still give time for before it got voted on.
Sorry, can you clarify the normal process of a bylaws change for it to be posted for? It is my understanding that it had to be posted for something like 2 or 3 months before it came to a vote.
That's not an official policy. It's a recommendation, and we try to do that when we're able, but it's not a policy. I'm sorry, back and forth, sorry.
Sam, do you have a clarification here?
I was just going to say that even though it's not an official policy, it's been the practice of this bylaws committee to post the final language of proposed bylaws amendments at least, one board meeting. So that might be a little more than 30 days, a little bit less than 30 days, right? Because of the first Monday thing, but at least one board meeting before they're voted on. So it's up there on the .net site for people to read for a month. And I don't think we've made a couple of bylaws changes recently, and I believe that's always happened for those. So I wouldn't expect anything different on this.
Yes, we always post the language.
So in answer to your question, AJ, the membership will have a chance to review the language of whatever the bylaws committee comes up with for at least a month before the board votes on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paxton?
I was going to say much the same thing.
Thank you. Spirit?
Yeah, I've always thought it the same way. In light of what John Pincus shared earlier, I'm wondering if we may be able to put a link up on the main page rather than having to go into folder specifically around the bylaws change. So maybe Lisa, is that something you might be able to consider working on with the office staff, just so it's an easy access to any bylaw change recommendations? And just a question. Thank you.
It's already in that way.
Okay, I see no further questions, so that brings us to a vote. Lisa, would you read the wording of the motion? Oh, Sandra, go ahead, and then we'll do wording of the motion and one more time and then vote.
Yeah, sorry for that. I had a couple of questions about, I was wondering, there's a couple of, Sam was talking about some exceptions. And sometimes I think people who do a lot of committee work throughout the year, and they're probably more likely to have a pass of some sort, but they might not and have done extensive committees, like some of the people in the philanthropy parts of the fair. And then secondly, people who it's been brought to my attention that some people who work Culture Jam as volunteers will put in as much work as any staff during the fair, but yet they're not allowed to be members. And just maybe having a conversation, should there be some kind of allowance for that when you're talking about it?
Thank you. So Lisa, now can you read the wording of the motion itself and then we'll vote?
Yes. The whole thing? Or can I just
the meat of the motion, the directive?
The meat of it is to direct the bylaws committee to add clarifying language to Article 5, Section 2A as recommended by the membership secretary. And again, that's just to clarify that to remain a member, an individual must not only just vote in one annual membership vote every 3 years, but also participate in a fair once every 3 years. Yes, and I've made notes of all the questions and comments
Thanks.
here.
Okay, so now we vote. AJ,
Yes.
I vote yes. Sam,
Yes.
Spirit,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
and Sue.
Yes.
So that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. John, do you have a motion for us on hybrid meetings?
Yeah, I do have a motion, and once it's seconded, I've talked to my anticipated second. We'd like to go ahead and table it because the text has not been made available, but I just want to get the text of the motion out. I'm going to put it into the chat box for those people who are on this, but the motion is to direct the executive director, direct the executive director to have staff work with IT and video volunteers to develop a plan and budget to provide adequate software and hardware to hold hybrid in-person and online meetings for governance and operational functions, board, committees, teams, crafters, food booths coordinators, community village, energy park, etc.
Second.
And Paxton is your second? And,
Yes.
and you would like to table that tonight and save it, hold it over till September?
That's correct. Give people a chance to see the text of the motion.
Okay. Thank you for that. That brings us to, we have the reparations motion table withdrawn, the data management policy motion tabled. This brings us to AJ, a motion on minutes of committee meetings. Can you read us the text of that motion?
Yes, just a second. Move to direct the executive director to provide access for membership to view all committee and board meetings as requested.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I heard Sandra. We have membership input. Heather.
I would like to say, please, please, please support this motion. That is fantastic news. And given that we are a membership organization with meetings that are open to members, any member who can't be at a meeting when it happens should certainly have access to view the video of that meeting. Thank you so much.
Stephen.
Hello. So there's simply no rationale for restricting access to these recordings. A public meeting is, well, public. And if we truly value participation and transparency, then anyone should be able to view what actually transpired at a meeting. We have already seen minutes that do not begin to reflect what actually happened in meetings. I only know this because I was at those meetings. The argument that meeting clips will be taken out of context and used against people does not hold any water. Board meeting recordings are available and that does not happen. The protection against such conduct is that the whole video be available. All the context is available. If someone tries to take something out of context, there is ample opportunity to provide context and to assess whether the act of taking something out of context was in fact distorting facts and whether or not it was done with malicious intent. Instead, if something noteworthy to the community takes place in a meeting, one can tell people that this thing happened, and someone else can say it did not happen, and that never happened. And it literally takes an act of OCF Congress to discover the truth. Please insist that these public meetings are in fact public by making these videos available, just as people are able to see board meetings, even if they are unable to attend. Thank you.
Martha?
I had a question about the language of the motion. The last two words were as requested, and I don't understand that. If we make the minutes available, shouldn't the minutes be available on the det.net site? Not that it implied to me that I would have to go through a process to request that, and I don't think that should be necessary.
We don't normally have space for back and forth, but AJ, did you want to answer that briefly? Or do you want to wait until board input? Board discussion?
I'll briefly answer that. In the spirit of collaboration, I take that suggestion to heart, and I will remove the last two words of that motion. That the as requested, I will strike that off my motion.
Thank you.
Danny.
I just want to say that I speak in favor of this motion and thank you for taking off the as requested. I was going to ask about that. And I also would like to request that the committees post their minutes in a timely manner. A lot of them are really far behind. So I hope that this motion will help get that back on track or on track at all. Thank you.
Paul.
Yes, I would also like to speak strongly in favor of this motion. It's the right thing to do at this time when there are people spread far and wide who would like to be able to participate and know what's going on at different times. If we'd had this policy enforced in the last year or so, we'd probably be in a really different position because we could all be talking about what happened from looking at what happened rather than having to piece it all together, he said, she said style. So I really can only see that this could improve our relationships all around because we can understand what really happened and people can better participate. Thank you.
Comio?
Hi, as a scribe for the Elders Committee, I would like to attest that I am totally in favor of this motion. It is near impossible to write up minutes that speak directly to what's actually happened at a meeting. You can come close, but at the end of the day, there's nothing like being there in person and seeing the facial expressions, the tone of voice. I really hope that the board will approve this motion. Thank you.
Anne.
I just put my hand down. Thank you very much.
Any further member input? Okay, this brings us to board discussion. What board discussion do we have? John?
This is a quite substantive change from the previous version of the motion, AJ. It would seem to be consistent with what you and others have said, that it should not be voted on tonight, to give people a chance, because this is not to simply make these videos accessible in the event minutes are not posted, but it's to make them accessible at all times. And I think that's a very substantive change.
Sandra? Sandra, you're muted.
Okay, sorry.
Now you're
Motions
good.
are, okay. Motions are amended. That's part of the process. And sometimes they are, amended quite a bit. I've seen that. You do that yourself, John, in some of these meetings. And so I think that the main purpose is there, that there should be some access to the recordings of minutes, and I would definitely support this motion.
Lisa?
I am generally in favor of increasing access and removing barriers to participation. I just feel like I need more time to consider this motion. I wonder if there are bylaws implications that we might want to look at and consider. I just don't feel ready to vote on it tonight. So if it does come to a vote, I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
AJ, you're next. Paxton asked if you'd read the motion again as amended. Can you do that for us?
So I am currently trying to make it very clear. So one of the things that I want to acknowledge that the board talks about all the time is that motions can be reworked all the way up until tonight, the night of the motion. So I want to put it out there that this is not an unusual thing. I think no one is surprised that I'm bringing this motion, as I brought up a similar motion last month that failed, and I tried to rework it to see if this one can pass. So that motion again reads that I move to direct the executive director, the executive director to make available to the membership all recordings of committee and board meetings, minus and I'm subtracting the as requested.
And Sandra, you're the second for this motion. You approve of that wording?
Yes.
Just clarifying. Okay. Okay, that brings us to Paxton.
I guess my objection is the phrase direct the executive director to do this job. I'm not sure I understand that directly. Is she going to develop direct somebody to develop a website or something that will, directly connect to the videos or things like this? I have several questions about this, and I think it needs further work. So I will probably be voting against it. Thank you.
Am I allowed to answer that question, Lily? Since you
Sure,
posed it?
I'll allow that. Yeah, I'll allow
Okay.
that.
The reason I have put direct the executive director, because it's her staff. She can allocate to the staff, the correct staff who can post this on the .NET site, for example, or to, or where it's going to be directed. So membership has access to that. That's why it's a direction to her and her staff. I just didn't add her staff because she is the lead of the staff. So.
Sue?
I also have concerns about this. It would be the start time to have these meetings available, because anything that was recorded prior to the motion, I think should be exempt, because people in those meetings would not be aware that the videos were going to be shared. I think there's more work to be done on this. Thanks.
I am willing to make a friendly motion and change that and add to that all future meetings as of this motion being voted on. So I'm willing to accept that, Sue, and
Sandra,
going forward.
Sandra, do you accept AJ's amendment of adding the clause, all motions, all meetings going forward from August 1st, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. Spirit.
Yeah, I think there's no time like the present for the board to be doing board work. It seems like we have time this evening, and I think that we should just continue whittling away at it until we get to something that we feel comfortable voting on. I think the integrity of this motion has not changed from the beginning till now, and this is about accessibility. This is about being able to actually squash rumors and innuendos. And I believe what Hall said is correct in that we may be in a different place if we weren't having to navigate those type of things and the he said, she said, they said type of situation. And so for me, I think that we should just continue working at it. I'm in support of the amendments thus far. And I also agree that the board should only be directing the executive director and let her delegate to who she needs to. That is the appropriate process. So thank you. I will be in support of this motion, but I'd like to see if we can even make it better in the next half hour or less.
I'm up next. AJ, I wanted to know why you updated the motion to not reflect after minutes had been posted, because the wording at some point had included a clause that said, like, the committee has 30 days to get minutes posted, and if minutes aren't posted, the recordings will be made available. What was the process of deciding to drop that wording?
After feedback from several different folks who felt like it was a punishment, the way the motion was stated, that it was a punishment for folks not submitting their minutes, and we are not a punishment organization. And so I am dividing that part, or separating those two, so that the language of the motion does not become something, or cannot be misconstrued as a punishment for committees not submitting their meeting minutes on time.
Sue?
In thinking a little more about this, I would also like to have the chance to talk with the committees I work with, just to give them a heads up. So I would prefer that the date be pushed to later this year, but just because committees will be affected, and it's not like it's all secret, but sometimes the way we run meetings within our own culture might need to be straightened out just a little bit, a little more organized. So I would still like more time on this.
Can I reply to that?
Sure.
Yeah, I just would like to add, when the board decided to create the Fixed Assets Committee, one of the requirements was that we record our meetings. And so I think that, and then what the board voted on this winter was also that the recordings that happen. So people are aware that meetings, everybody should be recording their meetings at this point. And so I don't think it's necessary to give another month to let people know, well, those recordings might be viewed by the people that could show up to the public meeting. I think everybody already understands that they're being recorded, that board members can access them. And all this does is say that now that the minutes are recorded, that membership can access them as well.
Sam?
I made a thoughtful statement when a very similar motion came up at the June line meeting, and I would direct you all to that statement as to why I oppose this in principle. And just briefly, I guess I'll reiterate the main point of that statement, which is that I don't think we are in a good place as an organization for a motion like this to pass. I don't think that the sharing of videos actually increases transparency. I think that it increases potential for individual members who are unelected and unappointed to attempt to micromanage the work of our board committees. And I'm not in favor of it, and I'm not going to be in favor of any version of it. And I'll be voting no on this motion and on any similar motion that comes up. I might be convinced to support a motion along these lines once the board has undergone and gone through its facilitated dialogue process with the diversity committee, who I think that this is broadly aimed at. And through that process, perhaps we can build enough trust for me to get to a point where I feel okay and would feel acceptable with this, but I do not at this time and will not. And I'll be voting no, and I hope that my fellow board members join me in that.
Lisa?
I think that Sam summed up a lot of the reasons that I feel like I need more time to consider this. But the reason I raised my hand was because I wanted to ask if the recordings would replace written minutes, or would we still have both?
You want to answer that one, AJ?
Yeah, this motion is not to replace minutes.
Lisa, was that's it? You're done? Okay, Paxton?
I much prefer the printed original of this motion. I think it's changed significantly. I would actually give a longer time than 30 days. I don't view that as punishment, but
Wait, Paxton, you were frozen till just now.
wow, interesting. I prefer the original motion. I don't know if you can hear that. That was printed in my board packet. I would give a longer time than 30 days. So I don't like the way it was rewritten. Thank you very much.
AJ?
Yes, I would just add to this that this is, again, this is not for closed sessions at all. This is for public meetings. And I would also add that I think the board has to start really educating committees, all committees, on what their task is. There should not be, outside of closed meetings, there's public meetings, there should not be things being said, or it's not a team group meeting. It's not a get together. These committee meetings are public meetings for our membership. And so using our committee meetings as somehow some session with your friends or whatever you want to call it, and saying that you don't want them to be recorded and viewed by others because you want to be able to say what you want to say to your friends, is not necessarily the way that our committees are supposed to be used in that way. So I hope that if this motion does not pass, that at some point the board finds a way to make sure that our meeting spaces, including our board meetings and our committee spaces, are used for board and organizational business and not for therapy sessions or for any other thing other than business of the organization. And with that said, a motion like this should not be an issue if our committee meetings are being used in that way.
Paxton?
I just object to that. I think I froze again.
No, you're not frozen. You're good.
Okay, I object to that. I think our board meetings are our committee meetings, and they're board committee meetings. They're not for the membership. I think that's a misnomer. As board members, yes, we represent the membership, but we are the board members, and the committee members are there to do work, and that's what they try to do, and that's what I see most of the time. It's after the meetings, sometimes we hang out. We used to like to in person hang out a lot, but I've even seen it on Zoom at times, that there's been times we, after committee meetings, people hang out, but that's after work. The committee meeting during that is all the ones I'm involved in do work, and are not social gatherings. Thank you.
Spirit?
Yeah, I'm going to somewhat call out the elephant in the room. I don't need to name any specific committee because I don't know that that's important, but it does feel like voting no against this is protecting one particular committee. And for me, the committees are doing the work of the board. They work at the behest of the board, and we have some committees, or at least one, who is not willing to do that work right now. And there's all sorts of rumors swirling around. And I do believe it holds committees accountable when we can actually make them accessible to everybody. Because right now there's a whole lot of misinformation out there right now. And as a board member, I feel like I can't even speak to what really happens at a committee meeting because it's not accessible to everybody. So then again, it's just through my filter, and it shouldn't be through my filter either. It should be available to all. And why we're trying to protect a committee from what's really happening at a committee meeting is mind blowing to me. We should make all of this accessible as a membership board and a membership organization.
Sam?
I object in strong and stringent terms to the characterization that the diversity committee, which is the committee that you, I believe the committee that you were not naming just now, Spirit, is unwilling to do the work of the board and unwilling to do the work of the organization. I recognize that the work that they are doing is controversial and that the topics that they have been tasked with working on are controversial. Although I want to add to the discussion once more that it's been the case, and I'm in an awkward position as the liaison to that committee. I'm required to be at all of the meetings, and I've taken on the role of facilitating them, largely just to try and act as a buffer between a large number of members, unelected and unappointed, who are going to those meetings as they have the right to do. And I would say nitpicking and micromanaging and attempting to nitpick and micromanage the work of that committee. It is extremely difficult, and it is my belief that if the recordings of those meetings are made public, that nitpicking and micromanaging will continue on Facebook, on Twitter, on any social media platforms, on email lists, throughout the weeks and months following each meeting. And I think that that's a very, very bad choice. That would be a very bad decision for us as an organization to allow. I think that we need to take a step back, and I think that we need to stop doing things that escalate these conflicts and divisions until we can sit down around a table with a trained professional who can help us to work out these divisions, with some trained professional, with a team of trained professionals. Until then, I think we need to stop escalating conflict, and that's what this motion does. And therefore, I move to call the question.
Do you have a second? Is there a second for that? Sue? Okay, so let's vote on calling the question. AJ?
Tell us what we're voting on.
Calling
Are we? Okay. No, I don't think the discussion's done.
So no?
No.
Sam?
Yes.
Spirit?
No, and I feel like a point of order here. I think, well, there's Steve Berkson. I think a point of order is in order.
What is the point of order you'd like?
Point of order is we went off on a tangent here. That's not about the post.
But
No,
anyone,
the point of
anyone-
order,
nope,
if I may.
nope.
Okay,
Spirit, your point of order, there's no point of order on a tangent when someone called the question. Calling the question is legit. It ends discussion, and we call the
there is a
question
point of order on that motion, though.
And anybody should be able to call it.
on the motion to call the question.
There is a point of order on that motion. You cannot make a long statement followed by an undebatable motion. That is the equivalent of being able to have your say and then tell everyone else to shut up. So an undebatable motion can be made only by taking your turn to do nothing but call the motion, call the question.
I'm not sure that's one of the rules of our,
Well, it's one of the rules of Robert's Rule of Order, and it's a fundamental principle of this thing, because otherwise Sam gets the last word and then gets to tell everyone to be quiet by calling the question.
well, but.
Normally,
but
any
the
undebatable
motion
motion
cannot
doesn't.
pass.
Okay.
The
Can't
motion-
be associated with a statement.
Lily, that is exactly correct. As a motion maker, that is not it. I mean, if we did everything that way, where you can make a long speech and to hear no rebuttal, you can have the last word by calling the question, that is a bad practice to have.
I hear you. I just don't know that it's our precedent. And we don't have a rule on that. We don't follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Right.
So it could be that calling the question will fail, in which case we'll continue the conversation with the stack in the same place.
Or I should have a direct or something to that. Something.
We're gonna continue with voting to call the question. I have AJ voting no, Spirit voting no, Sam voting yes. I vote no. George,
No.
John,
Yes.
Lisa, Lisa, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hi, there you are. How do you vote to call the question?
I'm going to abstain.
Paxton,
Yes.
Sandra,
No.
and Sue?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion to call the question fails with Lisa abstaining, George, Sandra, AJ, Spirit, and Lily against. So that means we go back to the stack, which is Lisa is next.
I just, I'm really offended at the implication that my motivations for questioning this motion are because I'm trying to protect one committee. I think that I have given my reasons, and those reasons include thinking about all committees. And, you know, we're all volunteers here, and we are all entitled to be treated with respect. And I find it incredibly disrespectful that my motivations keep getting misrepresented and called into question in this manner. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
AJ?
Yeah, yeah, I sorry about everybody's hurt feelings, but this is the reality of what's on the table here. The folks that are disagreeing with this motion are the same folks that have for months and months and months disagreed with several different motions regarding the diversity committee. So it is very, very, it is not out of the park that someone would think that folks are protecting this committee. I would also add that this committee has used board meetings and recordings as well to micromanage the board. They don't see themselves as a board committee. They see themselves as overseers of the board. That's one of the problems that we have here. Now, this motion was not meant specifically for them, but as you can see here, because of the language that some of the board members are using, it has come down to, oh, this one committee. And the reality of it is, I don't hear this from any other committee. I don't hear any other committee protesting having their minutes be made available to the public membership that it has a right to attend them. And so it makes you want to think, why just one committee? If I heard that this was if there was some overall, every committee or half the committees were protesting this, it would be a different thing. But we really, to be honest and put it out there, the membership can see it's one committee that is protesting this. And there's a reason for that. And again, these are committees of the board. This is where work of the board is being done. The membership should have access to that. However we get it to them. It is my position as a VP of membership to make sure that I advocate for all members to have access to the information that makes this organization run. And I will continue to do my job on their behalf, despite certain board members wanting to protect one group of folks.
Spirit?
Yeah, I am really hoping that one day we can get to a point where we can actually have respectful debate where we're not taking things personally, because this isn't personal. This isn't against anybody, but we are talking about, for me, there is one issue here, because what I'm hearing being said in this board meeting in regard to the diversity committee, which I wasn't going to name. I actually have an issue with a couple committees and how their minutes come out. And I think a video would help, but I guess I feel like, video would help determine the difference between, Sam, you said that it was well attended. I happen to disagree. It was well attended by committee members. I feel like there was 8 out of 12 or something missing. So for me, I guess that video is would help kind of clarify these things, where right now we don't have that. It's your word and my word. And I think that it is causing more division. We can keep talking about Facebook and all of the drama and all of the trauma that it has caused in the past, but right now that's not what I'm seeing happen on Facebook. And so I would hope that moving forward, that we're all trying to learn not to rake each other through the coals on Facebook. And I hope that continues to be the case, but I don't want to not make a motion because we're fearful of that. We just have to continue to try to do better.
Sue?
I'm sorry, I have to take a deep breath. I'm really tired. I don't work with diversity committee. In fact, the last meeting I went to, I just felt awful with all the poo that was being flung, to be frank, and I don't think it was fair, but I don't have to subject myself to that. I'm talking about the committees that I work with, the committees I liaison. I did not mention diversity committee. My concerns about this motion, frankly, have nothing to do with diversity committee. To me, it's my concern for committees I work with. And frankly, I am really, really tired of my motives, my thoughts being misconstrued as if you can read my mind. Please stop doing that. Thank you.
I'm next on the stack, but I don't believe Sandra has spoken on this discussion item. So I'm going to let Sandra go first as essentially a first round, and then it'll be me, Paxton, and Lisa.
In truth, I did already speak.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So then my question, AJ, I put my hand up when you said just a minute ago that there's committees who are resisting having their minutes posted. And I just wanted to know if that was a misspeak and you meant video, or if there are committees that are resisting having their minutes posted on the .net site. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I was saying that there's not committees. I haven't heard of any committee resisting this other than the diversity committee and the representatives or on the board of that committee. I haven't heard anybody resisting that committees.
So then I guess my comment then is the same as my comment last time, and you did sort of address this already. So I apologize if I'm repeating the discussion, but my last time in the July meeting, I asked if this was targeted at one committee, and if it is, let's just be explicit about that. Let's make a motion directing that committee to do certain things. And if it's not about,
oh, sorry.
Right.
And it is not targeted at it. The blowback from it in this conversation made it targeted because people's answers to that and their resistance to it is in protection of, in my opinion, this one committee. That's what's making it feel like it's directed at them. The motion is not directed at them. The motion is directed at all board committees and all committees functioning on the behalf of the organization, doing business on behalf of the organization. It just seems that we always end up with this whole excuse for not doing this being because of the diversity committee and something around them. That is not on me. That is not my intention.
Okay, thank you. So on the stack, we have Sandra, Paxton, and Lisa. I think now that Sandra has already spoken and will have another chance to speak, everyone has spoken on this. We've spent at least half an hour. Spirit, I think jokingly said we can spend the next half hour on this half an hour ago, and we'd already been discussing it. We still have 2 motions to get to tonight. We've been trying to end at 9. I think at this point we're going to go past 9, but I'm hoping that we can close the stack after Sandra packs the pizza. So Sandra, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say that I think this is generally good practice to have recorded meetings be available. That's, you know, one of the values of having recorded meetings. And I remember the discussion about recording board meetings when we were first doing that. There was so much resistance from a number of different reasons then about how that would stifle conversation, and you know, and it would be difficult for in a number of different ways. And really, none of that turned out to be true. You know, that people really, it engaged membership in following board meetings. If they missed the meeting, they could watch the recording of it later. And you know, we have a very far-flung membership and a busy membership, and they can't make a lot of the meetings. You know, we've been recording fixed assets, and you know, I mean, there's and lots of the that's available to anyone. There are ways to put it on the .net site so people can find those meetings and listen to them. But I just think all of this fear about you know, what could possibly happen hasn't actually manifested itself. I don't think we should be that fearful of having a record of meetings done on behalf of the organization. And so anyway, I think it's good practice. I think you know, people are able to keep up with what's being done. They're engaged. They know how to get engaged, and I think it's important to do this.
Paxton?
I just object to being mischaracterized as protecting the diversity committee. That is totally inaccurate information or whatever. I definitely would like to see us get back going with diversity committee work. And I think we were on its process until last January. And everything kind of has gone to pieces on that. I do not think that videoing anyway, I think it's a classic example of stuff that's been information that's been misused and mischaracterized, and I really object. Thank you.
Lisa?
I need more time. I don't feel ready to vote on this tonight. I'd like to ask AJ if you're willing to table.
I would ask, what do you need more time for?
To consider all of the implications of the policy that you're proposing.
At this time, I'm not willing to table it because this has been an ongoing conversation for several months now. And so, no, sorry.
Okay, Spirit, you've got a clarifying question and then we'll vote.
Yeah, and I apologize if this doesn't constitute a clarifying question. I just am very, very confused if these are public meetings and open to everybody, why we're not able to record them. It's just very confusing to me, and I don't understand what the difference is. I mean, I hear what people are saying, but I don't really get it because there are minutes, and if the minutes are accurately reflecting the meeting, then what's the issue? And so I want people to think about that, I suppose, before voting.
Okay. Sam, point of order.
It's kind of moot, but that wasn't a clarifying question. It was a statement of opinion.
Okay, so now we vote. Sue? Sue, I believe you're muted. Or I at least just didn't hear you.
No.
Sandra?
Yes.
Paxton?
No.
Lisa?
No.
John?
No.
George?
No.
Spirit? Spirit?
Yes.
Sam?
No.
I'm going to abstain. And AJ.
Yes.
That motion does not carry with George, Sam, Sue, Paxton, Lisa, and John opposed and Lily abstaining. That brings us to appointing George Braddock to the Fixed Assets Committee. Sandra, do you have a motion for us?
Oh, yeah, the actual motion.
Yeah.
The Fixed Assets Committee, I have to make it up. I didn't even think about that. Sorry. The Fixed Assets Committee moves to appoint George Braddock to the committee.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Do we have member discussion? No member discussion. How about board discussion? John?
So there was no call out for members.
There was not a general call out for members, no. I have a statement to read, if
Oh,
that's
go ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. George and I started out as the team to start the Fixed Assets Committee. Due to significant personal and health issues, George had to drop out as he did not have the ability to give the new committee the commitment it needed. AJ stepped up at the last minute and we moved forward. It has been almost a year and a half since the Fixed Assets Committee was approved. George's circumstances are different now, so I asked him if he felt up to helping with the work of this committee at this point in time. George brings a lot of skills to the table. He's extremely capable in building, contracting, thinking outside the box, and how to get things done. Many committees don't put out call outs, especially when there are specific skills that are needed. Since George was originally part of the committee and through no fault of his own was unable to continue at the time the committee was approved, we are very pleased that he can now join this committee and be an important resource. The committee was unanimous in recommending him for Fixed Assets.
Lisa?
I'll pass. My questions have been answered. Thank you.
I just wanted to point out, like, with even more clarity, something that Sandra just hinted or referred to, which is that I think the original intention, the original formation of the Fixed Assets Committee, George was pivotal in that. And personal events in George's life led him to not serve at the foundation of this committee, but that was always the intention. I think in my mind, it was formed with a lot of his wisdom and advice. And I think it's a natural addition now that he has more bandwidth to be named to the committee. Paxton?
I like George. I really think he's an excellent contractor. I love his work. I have one big concern, and over the past couple of years, George has expressed a lack of support for the compost project, and that being one of my big projects that I'm interested in, I'm looking for hopefully some sort of assurance that he will, consider that in the light of the fair's needs and not necessarily his own opinions at times that he's expressed to me. Anyway, thank you. I think George definitely has the skills to do the job. Thank you.
Spirit, go ahead. I'll ask my question after because you haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah, I was going to say I support for the reasons that Sandra shared, and I'm glad, Paxton, that you mentioned that George, would he consider looking at it differently? Because I don't think we should vote on whether somebody has a difference of opinion. George and I don't always see eye to eye, but I've always seen George take all things into consideration and vote after the fact. So I'm going to be in support of this. I think he has an amazing skill set that this committee needs, and I hope that the board follows suit.
Yep. My question is a clarifying question just to make sure it's very explicit. Is George being named for the term of his board service, or is he being named as a permanent member of the committee?
He's being named as a member of the committee.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think when this nomination came up previously, and before George was unable to step up to that committee, I was very excited about it, and I remain very excited about having you being able to serve on this committee, George. So I hope that. I guess the other thing I want to say is just that we do, as an organization, tend to spend a lot of time trying to stop people from doing volunteer service. And maybe excitement about people who are excited to serve is our best bet. And I'm excited, George, about your excitement to serve. So I'm glad that you're coming and stepping up.
Thank you.
Seeing no board input, no more board input requests, let's vote. George, I presume you're going to recuse yourself. Is that your intention?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so let's vote. AJ?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Spirit?
Yes, please.
I vote yes. John?
Abstain.
Lisa?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Sue?
Abstain.
Okay, that motion passes with 7 votes. George is recused and John and Sue have abstained, so it carries with 7 votes. Now, board, it's past 9. We have one more motion on the table for tonight that is time sensitive. That's why we moved it new to old. I would like board permission by unanimous consent to extend the board meeting for 15 minutes to discuss the Black Cultural Festival donation. If there's anyone who does not want to extend the meeting by unanimous consent, then we can go to a discussion and a real vote. Just say no now or forever hold your peace. I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. Great. So we'll extend till 9:20. AJ, do you have a motion for us on the Black Cultural Festival? And AJ, I'm not sure if you're aware, but your camera is off.
Oh, sorry. I didn't. Yeah, I don't have my mouse with me, so I'm trying to.
There you go. You got it.
There we go. I didn't even notice I wasn't looking at myself. All right. So the motion again reads as, in collaboration and support of from the executive director and the board president, I move to use the $5,000 of our community outreach budget to sponsor the Black Cultural Festival in Eugene at Alden Baker Park on August 20th. And so I wanted to provide this as well. The Eugene Black Cultural Festival is an annual event designed to create a sense of belonging for the local Black community. It is intended for the community and our close friends and families to provide offerings. Some of the things that happen there is a museum without walls, an outdoor museum with Black art, youth zone activities, aerial soap lessons, art classes, crafts, nature science-based activities, free snacks, complimentary meal, swag bags, and more. Free activities such as yoga, canoeing 101, river tours, huge raffle, and giveaways. Entertainment will include music, comedy, and African drumming, soul food, and shopping. And then I want to add this last part. This donation includes directly sponsoring 2 African food booths, as well as advertising support of the community event. By supporting this event, we show our continued dedication to JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
I'm going to second this motion. So that brings us to member input. Grumpy, you're first. And Grumpy, you have, I think, 20 seconds left.
Well, can
Okay,
you
hold
answer
on a
the
minute.
question? Can you answer the question before my 20 seconds are up? How much is in this budget?
It's $5,000.
So the motion is for $5,000. I don't know what is in the budget line item, actually. I think it's
9,000.
9,000. That's right, Kirsten.
9,000.
9,000 is in the line item.
Okay, so my comment is, I think our policy is to give to a nonprofit. Is this a nonprofit? I have a question. I would ask for a friendly amendment to make this, instead of $5,000, $2,500.
There are certain sponsorships, and they have sponsorship levels. So the $2,500 is not one of the sponsorship levels that will accomplish the goal of supporting this event the way this motion reads.
AJ, is it a nonprofit event?
It is an annual event. I am not certain it's a nonprofit event, but even if it's not a nonprofit, I can get that information. But even if it's not a nonprofit, we have said as an organization, we are committed to supporting, people of color and marginalized people in our community, and to say and to acknowledge that this is an annual event that does such a thing, and to require that it be a nonprofit in order to do that, I think it goes against that dedication that we're supposed to be having.
We have any further member input? Hillary. And then we'll go to board input.
Yeah, if this is not a donation, this is a sponsorship. So while we're being told what it's, what the organization will get out of it, what we're getting is, a level of advertising and promotion. So it'd be great if it's a nonprofit, but I don't think it's in the same category, the type of giving that we usually require 501c3 status for.
Thanks for that clarification, Hillary. Paxton, so now we're to board discussion. Paxton, you're up.
Mine was, I just heard in there that this is going to be partly sponsoring 2 African food booths, and I was wondering if they were Fair Family food booths. That was just my question.
I don't believe they are. AJ, do you want to say which the 2 booths are?
The 2 food booths are not Fair Family food booths. They are trying to get into Fair at this point, but they are currently Saturday Market food booths. There are the Ethiopian food booth, Michaela's, and it is the Irie Jamaican food booth.
Thank you.
Sam?
3 things. One, the Ethiopian food booth is utterly delicious. It's like my favorite place to eat. 2, I'm looking at the website for the Black Cultural Festival under sponsorships, and it doesn't say that they're nonprofit, but it does say that your sponsorship is tax deductible, which would lead me to believe that they're probably nonprofit. So I don't know the extent to which that answers the question, but it seems like it. And the other thing that I noticed on looking through their website is just the number of names that are really familiar to us as the fair involved in the organization of this event. And so it seems like there's folks who are part of both communities, part of the Oregon Country Fair and part of the community that's putting this event together. And so I think it's a great idea, and I think we should do it.
Sandra?
Yes, I really appreciate you bringing this forward, AJ. I think this is exactly the kind of work we should be doing with different kinds of marginalized communities, and supporting them in activities and programs that are meaningful to them. So I think this is great. So thank you.
Spirit.
Yeah, I am also really excited that you brought this to the board, AJ. I feel that it's time that we really start our outreach again in a bigger way and public way, and this is a perfect way to be supporting diversity. Thank you.
AJ.
I just want to let you guys know I had what was an amazing conversation with the one of the folks putting this event on, I just want to encourage everybody that can participate in events like this to participate. I felt a sense of this is an opportunity for us to do some healing in this community and start that happening with us. And this is like a first step towards that, or one of many steps towards that, I hope. But these are amazing people putting together an amazing event. I hope that we would help celebrate African-American culture in this organization whenever we have an opportunity to.
Great. Seeing no more. Oh, John.
So according to the website, this is put on by Obsidian Soul Productions. According to the Oregon Corporation Division, Obsidian Soul Productions is an assumed business name of an individual. So I don't see any evidence that this is a nonprofit donation. Just to be clear, and whether it's tax deductible or not to us doesn't matter because we're not tax deductible. I would have appreciated more information about what we get for the sponsorship, and specifically. I'm going to vote for the motion, but it would be helpful to know what we are getting by sponsoring, other than getting, I assume, our logo on their website.
I can provide that information real briefly, what we're getting for this, Lily, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's let John finish. I think he might not be done.
So,
No, that's fine. I'll if you can provide that, that would be fine.
all right. So what we're getting for this is that we will be a part of an we'll be on all of their advertisement on their social media, as well as their print and pamphlet. During the event, we will be getting from the stage, we'll be recognized from the stage with all the other sponsors, like the Kiva, and you can read through their website and see all the other sponsors that are sponsoring this event. But what I was most excited about is that we also have an opportunity to sponsor these 2 African food booths. And that sponsorship, what it gets them is they don't have to pay for the fee to vend at this place. And this organization has also purchased meals to give out to the participants free, and they are reimbursing these food booths for that. And so the food booths would not only have to not have to pay, but they will also have guaranteed income from this event. And so along with this, with the advertising and the notoriety that we'll get for supporting this event, we're actually doing some real work and supporting 2 Black businesses in Eugene.
Sam, and then John, and then let's see if we can vote at that point.
Yeah. So just on John, what you were saying about the Obsidian Soul Productions, if you go to the sponsorship page on the website and click on sponsorship package, it provides a little more information where it says your sponsorship is tax deductible. It says the name of a nonprofit, which is Nurturely, is the nonprofit that they apparently are partnering with to be able to accept tax deductible donations. I don't know the nature of that arrangement, obviously, just from what's on the website, but it does seem like they have that nonprofit relationship. And then just to talk about things in the past, I remember this question came up when we made a donation to the Lane East Asian Network maybe a year and a half ago, because they are also not organized as a nonprofit. They're sort of an individual doing activist work, and in the early phases of organizing. So I think one of the things that was said at that time, and that I think is also relevant here, is just that in a lot of cases, people doing, frontline activist work are in the early phases of organizing, haven't quite gotten to the point of meeting or having a 501c3 type thing. And hopefully this support may help this Black Cultural Festival continue for many years to come, and perhaps they will at some point decide to become a nonprofit organization or something, or do whatever makes sense for them. So.
John?
Do you know, I hate to ask more detailed questions, if this would give us a tier 1, 2, or 3 sponsorship?
It's a tier 3 sponsorship.
Okay. And I noticed that there's an admission charge to the event. Does the sponsorship give the organization any admissions?
The original tier 3 spot gave us a pavilion spot for us to have a booth there. Because we had the teddy bear picnic scheduled for that same day, they gave us the option of, instead of taking that pavilion position, sponsoring these 2 African food booths.
Lisa?
Yeah, so I went and checked out the website for this festival, and I see a lot of Fair Family and Fair Connection. It looks like a really great event, and thank you, AJ, for bringing this to us. I would be thrilled to vote yes on this.
Okay, let's vote. AJ?
Yes.
I vote yes. Sam?
Yes.
Spirit?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Great, that motion passes unanimously. And thank you, Paxton, for clarifying in the chat. The Teddy Bear Picnic is Sunday, April 21st. It's not exactly the same day as this event.
So it will give us an opportunity to go if I get down to Eugene the day before.
Yep.
Dude,
So now
I'll meet you.
I'd love to.
Now I want to make sure there's no more requests for new business for September's meeting. Here's what I have so far. I have Sandra's, the Personnel Policy Committee and ED to work together to create PTO in line with Oregon laws. An ad hoc committee of the treasurers and the budget committee. And I didn't write down what that one was for. Remind us, Sandra, what that was for.
It's the budget committee and the liaisons to, let me read it here.
You don't have to read it. I just want to know the purpose.
To standardize the policy for trade passes for,
thank you.
For retired GMs and staff.
Okay. Then John's hybrid meetings, which was tabled to be held over till next month. The data management policy that I tabled today. John's Picayune sponsorship. My motion at the request of the election committee to appoint Michael Schultz to the elections committee, and Spirit put up changing the dates of the 2023 fair. Does any board member have more new business for September?
Yes.
AJ, go ahead.
Yes, I am going to once again try to rework my motion around making recordings of meetings available to the membership. And so I will go back to the drawing board and work on it again.
Okay. So Since we're over time, let's not do a meeting evaluation. I'd like to point out some.
Kristen had her hand up.
Yeah, I think John's reparation motion was tabled till
He
September.
withdrew it. He withdrew that motion.
He submitted a new one, though,
No,
that
no,
would come forth.
my intent, Kirsten, is I will introduce it at next meeting as new business.
Got you. Got you. Thank you.
So there's some significant dates coming up. Our next board meeting is Monday, September 12th at 7 p.m. If we're able to create the circumstances for a hybrid meeting, we will do that. And if we're not, we will not have that prepared for September, but my hope is that we'll be there. Sunday, August 21st is the Teddy Bears Picnic. Entertainment begins around 2, or the festivities begin at 2. Entertainment begins at 4, and it goes till dusk. That same day, Sunday, August 21st at 11 a.m. is the fair evaluation meeting, usually hosted by the Vision Action Committee. I would like to offer, in lieu of a presidential listening session, I would like to offer on Wednesday, August 17th at 6 p.m. I'll hold a forum for folks who are interested in running for the board titled, "So You Want to Be a Board Member?" That was an idea passed on to me about someone else, where we can discuss the time commitment, frequency of meetings, responsibilities of board members, just so people who are hoping to put in candidate statements that weekend, if they have questions, they can come ask the president what those questions are. So that'll be by Zoom, Wednesday, August 17th at 6 p.m. We'll have that put on the .net site. And then for my president's piece, I just want to speak to the warm, fuzzy glow that I left the fair with. I went into the fair with concern for personal safety, with concern for the things and the folks who we love who wouldn't be there. And I spent a lot of time thinking about the things that wouldn't be there, the things that construction crew couldn't build, the things that the food booths that weren't coming, the fair family members who weren't able to make it because of the vaccine policy. And that was my focus going in. And I noticed absences, absolutely. But I also recognize that the fair every year has absences of people we love, or entertainers who don't get selected to entertain again, or booths that crafters and artisans who aren't able to sell their artwork. And in that respect, it felt like a regular fair. It felt like every year's fair. And it felt that we had come together in a time when we really, really most needed it, to be together on our land. Paxton, you keep saying we make the best decisions on our land. But it's not just about decision making, it's about connections. We connect best when we're on the land. And it was wonderful. And we did it. We were gonna have to have our first fair back after the hiatus some year. And I'd just like to thank every single person, every single group. I'm not gonna start listing anyone here because I don't want to make the faux pas of leaving anyone off. But for all of you who poured your heart and soul and hours of labor and the time commitment it took for the huge lift of presenting Fair 2022 to the community, thank you so much. We did it. Thank you. Sam, will you ring us out?
I just want to say Erica Lurch is a fabulous hostess.
Cool.
Right.
I do wish there was a way we could hang out after the meeting, like we
No
used to do in
kidding.
person.
I miss that a lot.
Paxton, my plan really is to get us back to hybrid or in person really soon. I've been working, there's some really incredible volunteers. As you know, you've been on some of those email chains. and we just keep noodling it out. It's just about being able to get it done the first time. And when we tried at Alice's, we had to keep trying. We had to figure out what pieces didn't work and what pieces we needed to fix, and what we can't do in the woods, maybe we can do in town. So it's going to happen soon.
We keep working on it.
Yeah.
But gee whiz, I want to say something that I don't want recorded.
Yeah, that's just not the time then.
Well, the meeting's over. One could turn off the recording.
Good night, folks.
Good to see
Bye,
you all.
Grumpy. Bye, Peter.
Good to see you all.
Night, everybody.